The vast emptiness of space held many secrets, but none as desperate as the message that reached Earth on a quiet Tuesday morning. In the control room of the Global Space Communications Center, Tom Wilson sat at his station, fighting to stay awake during what seemed like another ordinary night shift. The soft hum of computers and occasional beeping of monitors filled the air. That's when everything changed. The message came through on frequencies that humans had never used before. At first, it appeared as strange patterns on Tom's screen, but within minutes, the advanced AI translation systems began to make sense of it. What they found made Tom's coffee cup slip from his trembling hands. "Help us. Please. We are dying." The message repeated in over 50 different formats, each one carrying the same desperate plea. The aliens called themselves the Star People, and their civilization was facing extinction. A terrible disease was spreading through their population, killing millions every day. They had sent this message to every corner of the galaxy, hoping anyone would respond. Earth's leaders gathered in an emergency meeting. President Adams looked around the room at the assembled scientists, military commanders, and world leaders on the video screens. "We have to decide," she said firmly. "Do we reveal ourselves to the galaxy by answering this call?" Dr. James Baker, Earth's leading expert in medical research, stood up. His weathered face showed the weight of the decision before them. "We've faced countless epidemics ourselves," he said. "Through each one, we learned. We adapted. We survived. Maybe that's why we received this message now, because we know what it's like to stand on the edge of disaster and fight back." The debate lasted hours. Some argued for caution, warning that this could be a trap. Others pointed out that humanity had always dreamed of making first contact, but no one had imagined it would happen like this, with aliens begging for our help. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Earth would answer. Teams of scientists, doctors, and researchers were assembled from every nation. They worked day and night, studying the information the Star People had included about their disease. The symptoms were unlike anything seen on Earth, but the basic principles of how it spread were familiar. Dr. Lisa Brown, a young virologist, made the breakthrough. "Look at this," she said, pointing to her computer screen. "Their immune system works differently than ours, but the way this disease attacks them, it's similar to how some of our viruses work. We might be able to modify one of our treatment approaches." The next weeks were a blur of activity. Space agencies around the world worked together to modify existing ships for the long journey. Medical equipment was adapted to work with alien biology. Volunteers stepped forward, ready to risk everything to help an unknown civilization. The Star People sent coordinates. They lived in a star system 30 light-years from Earth. But they had included instructions for using ancient transportation gates left by a long-vanished civilization. These gates, dormant for millions of years, could create shortcuts through space. Captain Robert Miller stood before his crew on launch day. They were a mix of doctors, scientists, and space pilots from 20 different nations. "We're about to do something no humans have ever done," he said. "We're going to meet our neighbors for the first time, not to fight them, not to trade with them, but to help them. This is humanity at its best." The ship, named Hope's Answer, lifted off from the International Space Station. Millions watched around the world as it approached the first gate. The ancient technology hummed to life, creating a swirling portal of energy. As they prepared to enter the gateway, Dr. Brown looked out at the stars. "You know what's amazing?" she said to no one in particular. "They could have sent this message to any civilization out there. But somehow, it reached us, the ones who might actually be able to help." Captain Miller nodded. "Maybe that's not a coincidence. Maybe we've spent our whole history learning exactly what we needed to know for this moment." The ship entered the gateway, carrying humanity's response to a cry for help from the stars. No one knew exactly what they would find on the other side, but they knew one thing for certain: they had to try. Behind them, Earth held its breath, waiting to see what would happen when humanity took its first steps into a larger galaxy, not as conquerors or traders, but as helpers, as healers, as hope. The journey through the gateway felt like diving into a river of stars. Colors no human had ever seen before swirled around the Hope's answer as it traveled through space in ways that defied everything they knew about physics. When they emerged, the ship's crew found themselves in an entirely different part of the galaxy. The Star People's home system had 3 suns, one big and red, 2 smaller, and yellow. Their planet was larger than Earth, with purple oceans and golden continents. But the beauty of their world couldn't hide the tragedy unfolding on its surface. "We're receiving a transmission," said Mike, the communications officer. His hands moved quickly over the control panel as he put it through the ship's translation system. A tired voice filled the bridge. "Earth vessel, you have no idea how happy we are to see you. Please, follow the guide beacons to our main medical center." As they descended through the atmosphere, the crew got their first real look at the Star People's civilization. Their cities were built in spiral patterns, with tall buildings that seemed to be made of crystal and light. But many of these beautiful structures stood empty now, their windows dark. The Star People themselves were waiting in the landing area. They stood about 7 feet tall, with smooth silver skin that seemed to shimmer in the light of their 3 suns. Their eyes were large and completely black, but somehow still managed to show emotion right now. That emotion was hope. Dr. Brown stepped forward with her medical team. The translation devices they wore allowed them to understand each other. "I'm Dr. Lisa Brown from Earth," she said. "We came as fast as we could." The leader of the Star People bowed slightly. "I am the head healer. We call me Ray in your language." His voice cracked with emotion. "We have lost so many already. Please, follow me." The medical center was massive, its halls filled with the sick and dying. The Earth doctors immediately set up their equipment, working with the Star People's healers to understand the disease better. "Look at this," Dr. Brown said, studying samples under their advanced microscopes. "The disease isn't just attacking their bodies, it's adapting to every treatment they try. It's like it's learning." Captain Miller watched from the doorway. "Can we help them?" Dr. Brown nodded slowly. "Their medical technology is more advanced than ours in many ways, but sometimes a fresh perspective helps. We humans have dealt with rapidly evolving diseases before. We learned to think outside the box." The Earth team worked nonstop for days. They shared everything they knew about fighting diseases, from advanced genetic treatments to simple quarantine procedures. The Star People were amazed by some of the basic solutions humans had developed over centuries of fighting their own plagues. "You mean you actually inject yourselves with weakened versions of diseases to build immunity?" Ray asked, fascinated. "We never thought of that. Our medical science always focused on curing diseases after they appeared." Dr. Brown smiled. "Sometimes the old ways work best. We learned that the hard way." But the disease was still spreading. The Earth team watched helplessly as more Star People fell ill. Then one of the junior doctors, Bill, noticed something strange. "The disease affects everyone differently," he said, pointing to his data. "But there's a pattern. Look, it hits the younger ones harder than the older ones." This observation led to a breakthrough. The Star People's elders had survived an earlier, weaker version of the disease centuries ago. Their bodies remembered how to fight it. Just like on Earth, the key to survival lay in the power of natural immunity. Working together, the human and Star People medical teams developed a treatment using antibodies from the survivors. It wasn't a perfect cure, but it gave the sick a fighting chance. "We're starting to see improvement in the first test group," Ray announced one morning. His black eyes seemed to shine with tears. "For the first time since this began, people are getting better." The news spread through the city like wildfire. The Star People had lived in fear for so long, watching their population dwindle. Now, finally, there was real hope. But the Earth team's work wasn't done. They helped set up production facilities to make more of the treatment. They trained local medical teams in new techniques for preventing disease spread. They even helped design better protective equipment using simple materials. One evening, as the three suns were setting, Ray took Dr. Brown and Captain Miller to a high tower overlooking the city. More lights were on in the buildings now than when they had first arrived. When we sent out our message, many of us thought it was pointless, Ray said. The galaxy is so vast. What were the chances that someone would not only hear us, but also be able to help? Captain Miller looked out at the alien city. Sometimes the universe surprises us. Indeed, Ray agreed. We expected that if anyone answered, it would be one of the older spacefaring races. Instead, we got humans young, inexperienced in galactic affairs, but so full of determination and creativity. You showed us that sometimes the best solutions are the simple ones we overlooked. Dr. Brown watched a group of Star People children playing in a park below, something that would have been too dangerous just weeks ago. We're not so different, really, she said. We all want to live, to protect our families, to help others when we can. You've given us more than medicine, Ray said. You've given us a new way of thinking about problems. And you've shown us that we're not alone in this galaxy. That means more than you can know. As night fell, the crew of Hope's Answer knew their mission wasn't over yet. There were still sick people who needed treatment, systems to set up, knowledge to share. But they had done what humanity does best, faced a challenge head-on, thought creatively, and refused to give up until they found a solution. The galaxy would never be the same. And neither would humanity. 3 weeks after the Earth team's arrival, an unexpected visitor came to the Star People's world. The massive ship appeared suddenly in orbit, its design unlike anything humans or Star People had seen before. It belonged to the Guardians, one of the oldest races in the galaxy. The Guardian ship's captain, who called himself Blue, requested an immediate meeting with both human and Star People leaders. His appearance was strange, he looked like a tall figure made of shifting blue light. We detected your use of the ancient gateway network, Blue said, his voice deep and echoing. We came to investigate why a young race like humanity was suddenly traveling through space. Captain Miller explained their mission to help the Star People. As he spoke, Blue's light form flickered with what seemed like surprise. You crossed 30 light-years of space to help a species you'd never met? Blue asked. Most races would have ignored the message or seen it as an opportunity for profit. Dr. Brown stepped forward. On Earth, we have a tradition of helping others in need. We call it being a good neighbor. Blue's form shifted colors as he processed this information. Your response is unusual. But there's something you both need to know. The disease affecting the Star People isn't natural. It was created as a weapon. The room fell silent. Ray's silver skin paled to almost white. What do you mean? There's another race out there, Blue explained. They call themselves the Dark Ones. They've been testing biological weapons on various civilizations, preparing for a larger conflict. The Star People were just their latest test subjects. Captain Miller's fists clenched. You knew about this? Why didn't you stop them? Blue's form dimmed slightly. The Guardians maintain balance. We observe. We record. We don't interfere directly in conflicts between younger races. That's wrong, Dr. Brown said firmly. When you see someone hurting others and do nothing, you become part of the problem. The Guardian seemed taken aback by her directness. No younger race had ever spoken to them this way before. The Dark Ones must be stopped, Ray said. They'll keep doing this to other worlds. Blue's form shifted to a darker shade. Fighting them would start a war that could spread across the galaxy. That's why we've chosen not to act. Captain Miller stood up straighter. Then we'll act. Earth won't stand by while innocent people are attacked with biological weapons. We'll find a way to stop them. You don't understand, Blue warned. The Dark Ones are centuries ahead of humanity in technology. Their ships are more powerful, their weapons more advanced. You would be destroyed. Dr. Brown smiled. You know what's interesting about humans? We don't always need the most advanced technology to win. Sometimes all we need is determination and creativity. She pulled up data on her tablet. Look at this, we've already found patterns in how their biological weapon works. It's complex, yes, but it has weaknesses. They designed it to adapt to any treatment, but that same adaptation ability makes it unstable. We can use that against them. Ray's black eyes widened. You mean? We can create a cure that doesn't just treat the symptoms, Dr. Brown explained. It could break down the weapon's entire structure. If the Dark Ones try to use it again, it won't work. Blue's form flickered rapidly. That would render their primary weapon useless. Exactly, Captain Miller said. And we're going to share the cure with every civilization we can reach. Let's see how the Dark Ones like it when their targets are immune to their attacks. The Guardian was silent for a long moment. Your species continues to surprise us. You're so young, yet you think of solutions we never considered. Perhaps we've been wrong about interference. Maybe sometimes helping others is the right choice. Ray stepped forward. The Star People will help. We can use our communication network to spread the cure's formula across the galaxy. And Earth will provide ships to help distribute it, Captain Miller added. We can have our fleet ready within months. Blue's form brightened. The Guardians will help too. We can't directly fight the Dark Ones, but we can protect the ships distributing the cure. It's time we stopped just watching and started doing what's right. Dr. Brown looked around the room at the strange alliance they had formed: humans, Star People, and now even one of the ancient Guardian race. This is how we beat them, she said. Not with weapons or wars, but by working together. By helping each other. The news spread quickly through both Earth and the Star People's world. More volunteers stepped forward, ready to help with the mission. Ships were prepared, crews were trained, and the cure was mass-produced. The Dark Ones had tried to use fear and disease to weaken other races. Instead, they had accidentally created something powerful: unity between different species. Humanity's response to a cry for help had started a chain reaction that would change the galaxy forever. As they prepared for their expanded mission, Captain Miller gathered his crew. When we first received that distress call, we thought we were just going to help one civilization, he said. Now we're about to help protect the entire galaxy. Not bad for humanity's first step into space. Dr. Brown looked at the star map showing all the civilizations they planned to visit. You know what's amazing? None of this would have happened if we had chosen not to answer that first call for help. Ray nodded. One act of kindness can change everything. That's what humans taught us. And now we'll teach it to others. The Guardian Blue watched silently as the humans and Star People worked together, preparing for their galaxy-wide mission. Perhaps, he thought, this was why the universe had guided that original distress call to Earth. The galaxy didn't need another advanced civilization that would stand back and observe. It needed humanity young, passionate, and always ready to help. The fleet assembled in orbit around the Star People's world was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships flew alongside Star People vessels, while Guardian ships glowed with strange energy as they patrolled the edges of the formation. They called it the Hope Fleet. Captain Miller stood on the bridge of the lead ship, now renamed Unity. Dr. Brown and Ray worked in the newly built laboratory on board, producing batches of the cure and improving its formula. The Guardian Blue had joined their ship too, his glowing form providing guidance about the worlds they would visit. First target is 4 days away, through the Gateway Network, Miller announced to the fleet. The Dark Ones hit them 2 months ago. Half their population is sick. The journey through multiple gateways was tense. Blue had warned them that the Dark Ones might try to stop them. But humanity had learned from its own history. The fleet traveled in a formation designed to protect the medical ships at its center. It's like the old supply convoys, Miller explained to Ray. During our wars, we learned how to protect ships carrying important cargo. Sometimes old tactics work best. They arrived at the first world to find a planet of floating cities in the clouds. The people there, who called themselves the Sky Folk, were thin and tall, with wings like dragonflies. Many of them were too sick to fly anymore. When the fleet appeared in their sky, the sky folk were afraid at first. But Dr. Brown had learned from their experience with the star people. She sent a simple message: we bring hope and healing. The Skyfolk's leader, a wise old being named Wind Dancer, met with them in the highest city. His wings were dull and lifeless from the disease. "Why would you help us?" he asked. "We have nothing to give you in return." "Because it's right," Dr. Brown said. "And because every world we help makes the galaxy stronger against those who would harm us." The cure worked just as well on the Skyfolk as it had on the Star People. Within days, Wind Dancer's wings regained their shine, and the sound of flying filled the air again. But they discovered something else too. One of the human doctors, Bill, noticed that the Skyfolk's natural healing ability was amazing. Once cured, their bodies recovered faster than any species they'd seen. "If we combine this with our cure," he said excitedly, "we could make it work even better." That became the pattern as they visited more worlds. Each new civilization they helped had something unique to offer. The root dwellers, who lived underground, showed them how to make the cure last longer. The crystal mines, beings of pure energy like the Guardians, helped them understand how to protect it from tampering. The Dark Ones didn't stay quiet. They sent ships to attack the fleet, but they found themselves facing something they didn't expect: unity. Human tactical knowledge, Star People technology, and Guardian power worked together in ways they'd never seen before. "They don't understand," Miller said after they drove off another attack. "They think strength comes from weapons and fear. But real strength comes from working together." The fleet grew as they traveled. Ships from cured civilizations joined them, each bringing new knowledge and abilities. The Hope Fleet became a symbol across the galaxy. Wherever it appeared, people knew help had arrived. But the Dark Ones had one more trick. They released a new version of their weapon, designed to break through the cure. 3 worlds were infected before the fleet could respond. Dr. Brown worked day and night with a team of doctors from 6 different species. "Look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "The new version is stronger, but it's also more unstable." They sacrificed safety for power. The Guardian Blue observed their work. "In all our years of watching, we never saw species work together like this. The Dark Ones thought divisions between races would make us weak. Instead, those differences are becoming our strength." They developed a new cure, stronger than before. The root dwellers made it stable. The Skyfolk helped it work faster. The crystal mines protected it. Human creativity tied it all together. When they tested it, it didn't just cure the new disease, it made people immune to future versions. "The Dark Ones made a mistake," Ray said as they watched the new cure take effect. "They attacked the Skyfolk because they thought they were weak. They attacked the root dwellers because they seemed primitive. They attacked the crystal mines because they were different. But now all those peoples are working together." Word spread through the galaxy. More civilizations began calling for help, not just to cure the sick, but to join the alliance. The Hope Fleet's message was simple: together, we are stronger. Dr. Brown started training medical teams from every world they visited. "Share this knowledge," she told them. "The more we spread hope and healing, the harder it becomes for hatred to survive." Captain Miller received a message from Earth. More ships were coming, bringing volunteers from every nation. Humanity's first real step into the galaxy had started with answering a cry for help. Now they were helping to build something even bigger, a galaxy where different species stood together against those who would harm others. The Guardian Blue watched it all with growing amazement. "We Guardians thought we were wise, because we lived so long and saw so much," he said. "But humanity taught us the greatest wisdom of all: sometimes the best way to protect peace is to actively help others maintain it." As the fleet prepared to help another world, Dr. Brown looked out at the stars. Each point of light might hold another civilization, another people who needed help or could offer help to others. The galaxy was vast, but they were making it smaller through cooperation and kindness. "You know what the Dark Ones don't understand," she said to no one in particular. They think making people sick makes them strong. But healing people, helping them stand up again, that's what real strength is about. The Hope fleet moved on, carrying with it not just medicine, but a message that was spreading across the galaxy: no one has to face darkness alone. Help will come if you ask for it. And sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is simply the willingness to help others. The Hope fleet's success had not gone unnoticed. After 3 months of helping worlds and spreading the cure, they received disturbing news. The Dark Ones had changed their strategy. They're attacking transportation hubs now, Blue announced during an emergency meeting. His glowing form pulsed with worry. They're trying to cut off travel between worlds. Captain Miller studied the star map showing the attacked locations. Red dots marked each disabled gateway, forming a pattern that made his heart sink. They're not just attacking randomly. They're building a wall between sectors of space. Dr. Brown nodded grimly. Cutting off worlds so we can't reach them with the cure. Clever, but cruel. The Hope fleet faced its biggest challenge yet. The Dark Ones had disabled enough gateways to create zones where sick worlds couldn't be reached. And now they were attacking with ships as well as diseases. But humanity had faced similar problems before. Captain Miller gathered the fleet's leaders: humans, star people, sky folk, root dwellers, and crystal mines. On Earth, when enemies block the main roads, we make new ones, he said. The plan they created was bold. The root dwellers, used to finding paths underground, discovered that the gateway network had hidden connections. The crystal mines, with their energy-based technology, found ways to power these forgotten paths. It's like finding old forest trails when the highway is blocked, Miller explained to the fleet crews. Sometimes the back roads work better anyway. But reopening these ancient gateway paths was dangerous. The first attempt nearly destroyed 3 ships. That's when the sky folk stepped forward with an unexpected solution. Our ancestors were great builders, Wind Dancer said. Before we took to the air, they made great machines. We still have some of their knowledge. They showed how to stabilize the ancient gateways using sound waves that matched the gateway's energy frequency. The Dark Ones didn't expect this. While they guarded the main gateway routes, the Hope fleet used these restored paths to reach isolated worlds. Every rescued civilization joined their cause, bringing new ideas and abilities. Then came the biggest surprise. Dr. Brown and her team made an incredible discovery while studying gateway technology with the crystal mines. The gateways don't just move ships through space, she explained excitedly. They can transmit energy patterns. We can send the cure's formula directly through the network. The Dark Ones had thought blocking physical travel would stop the cure's spread. Instead, it led to a breakthrough that would make the cure impossible to stop. The crystal mines helped convert the medicine's pattern into energy that could travel through any active gateway. But what about worlds with no working gateways? Ray asked. That's when the Star People revealed something they'd been developing in secret. We modified our long-range communicators, they explained. They can receive the cure's pattern and recreate it using local materials. The Dark Ones had made a critical mistake. By forcing the Alliance to find new solutions, they had made it stronger. Now the cure could spread faster than their diseases ever could. But the enemy wasn't finished. They launched a massive attack on the Hope fleet's main base, trying to destroy the source of the cure. The battle that followed would be remembered across the galaxy for generations. Human tactics, combined with Star People technology. Skyfolk pilots flew impossible maneuvers, while Root Dweller engineers kept the ships running beyond their normal limits. Crystal-mined energy weapons synchronized with Guardian shields in ways never seen before. The Dark Ones found themselves facing not just weapons, but the combined creativity and determination of a dozen different species. Each race brought its own way of fighting, its own solutions to problems. During the battle, something unexpected happened. One of the Dark One's ships was damaged and crashed on a nearby moon. The rescue team that reached it made a shocking discovery: the Dark Ones were sick too. Their own weapons, Dr. Brown said as she studied the readings. They've been infected by their own biological weapons. That's why they're so desperate to stop us. Captain Miller made a decision that would change everything. He broadcast a message to the attacking fleet: "We know you're sick. We can help you too." The fighting stopped. For the first time, the Dark Ones responded not with threats, but with questions. Their leaders had kept the sickness secret, telling their people that conquering others was the only way to survive. "Your weapons didn't just poison other worlds," Dr. Brown explained to the first Dark Ones who accepted help. "They poisoned your own. But this cure doesn't care who you are or what you've done. It works for everyone." The Guardian Blue watched as former enemies began working together. "This is why humanity's response to that first cry for help was so important," he said. "You didn't just bring medicine. You brought a new way of thinking." Word spread through Dark One space. More of their ships came, not to fight, but to ask for help. The Hope Fleet found itself with a new mission, helping the very people who had tried to destroy them. "Some think we should turn them away," Miller said during a council meeting. "But that's not why we came out here. We came to help anyone who needs it." Dr. Brown worked with Dark One scientists, teaching them to use their skill with biological engineering to create cures instead of weapons. "Your knowledge isn't evil," she told them. "It's how you use it that matters." The galaxy was changing. Where there had been fear and isolation, now there was cooperation and hope. The network of worlds working together grew stronger every day. As they watched former enemies working side by side in the medical labs, Ray turned to Captain Miller. "When we sent that first cry for help," he said, "we hoped someone would save us. Instead, we found people who showed us how to save ourselves and others too." The Hope Fleet had become more than just ships carrying medicine. It had become proof that the greatest power in the galaxy wasn't weapons or fear, it was the simple willingness to help others, even those who once tried to harm you. 6 months after the Dark Ones joined the Alliance, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The Hope Fleet's main base had grown into a massive space station where ships from every known civilization came to trade knowledge and resources. Captain Miller walked through the station's main medical center, where doctors from 20 different species worked together. In one room, a former Dark One scientist named Clear Mind worked with Dr. Brown, using their knowledge of biological weapons to create better medicines. "We found another use for the Gateway Network," Clear Mind said excitedly. "We can use it to spot diseases before they become dangerous. No world will have to face a plague alone again." The station had become more than just a medical center. The Skyfolk had built training areas where they taught other species their flying techniques. The Root Dwellers shared their engineering secrets in huge workshops. The Star People's communication experts worked with humans to create a galaxy-wide warning system. "Remember when we thought we were alone in the universe?" Miller asked Dr. Brown as they watched a group of young aliens from different worlds playing together in the station's garden. "Now look at us. We're part of something bigger than we ever imagined." But not everything was perfect. Some Dark Ones groups still refused help, hiding in distant parts of space. And there were other threats out there: pirates, natural disasters, and unknown dangers lurking between the stars. That's when humanity proved itself again. Earth's governments had been busy, while the Hope Fleet was helping others. They had built more ships, trained more crews, and developed new technologies by working with their alien allies. "We're establishing rescue stations throughout the galaxy," Miller announced at a council meeting. "Any world that needs help can call, and the nearest station will respond. Not just for diseases, but for any emergency." The Guardian Blue, who had watched humanity's rise from cautious observer to galactic leader, spoke up. "In all our history, we never thought of creating a galaxy-wide emergency response system. We were too focused on maintaining balance to see that sometimes balance means actively helping others." The Star People, who had sent that first desperate call for help, had rebuilt their civilization. But they didn't return to their old isolated ways. Instead, they turned their world into a teaching center where other civilizations could learn from each other. Ray led Miller through their newest project, a massive library containing medical knowledge from every known world. Each civilization had pieces of the puzzle, he explained. Some knew about plants that could heal. Others understood energy medicine. Humans showed us how to put it all together. The Dark Ones who had joined them proved to be valuable allies. Their knowledge of biological engineering, once used to create weapons, now helped create crops that could grow on any world. Their powerful ships became rescue vessels, ready to help evacuate planets faced with natural disasters. Dr. Brown had started a new program, teaching young doctors from every species. The best ideas come from mixing different ways of thinking, she told her students. Humans learned that on Earth, where each culture had its own healing traditions. Now we're learning it again among the stars. But the biggest change was in how different species saw each other. The Hope Fleet had shown that differences weren't weaknesses, they were strengths. Each civilization brought something unique to their alliance. One day, as Miller watched ships arriving from across the galaxy, a young human officer asked him a question. "Sir, do you think we'll ever go back to just staying on Earth?" Miller smiled. "Look out there," he said, pointing to the busy space lanes. "Every one of those ships carries people who are different from us. They look different, think different, live different. But they're all working together to make the galaxy better. Why would we want to go back to being alone?" The station's communication center was always busy now. Calls for help still came in, not just about diseases, but about all sorts of problems. Sometimes it was a world facing famine. Sometimes it was a ship in trouble. Sometimes it was just a civilization ready to join the galactic community and asking for guidance. And humanity had found its role. They weren't the strongest or the most advanced. But they were good at bringing people together, at finding creative solutions, at refusing to give up when things got hard. "You know what's remarkable?" Blue said to Dr. Brown one day. "The Dark Ones thought they could make themselves stronger by making others weak. But you humans showed that real strength comes from helping others become strong." The medical center had expanded again, adding new wings for different species' needs. In one room, skyfolk healers taught others about using sound waves for healing. In another, root dwellers showed how certain crystals from deep underground could help focus healing energy. "We're not just sharing medicine anymore," Dr. Brown realized. "We're sharing ways of thinking, ways of solving problems. Each species that joins us brings new ideas." The station's main hall had become a symbol of this new unity. The walls were covered with art from different worlds, each piece telling a story of cooperation and healing. In the center stood a simple statue, a human hand reaching out to help an alien hand rise. "That's what Earth's first message to the stars really meant," Miller told a group of visitors. "Not 'we're better than you' or 'we have all the answers.' Just 'we're here to help if you need us.'" As the day ended, Miller and Dr. Brown stood at a window, watching the three suns set over the Star People's world below. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved through space around them, carrying help and hope to distant worlds. "You know what's funny?" Dr. Brown said. "All this started because we answered a call for help. We didn't know what we'd find out here. We just knew someone needed us." Miller nodded. "And now look what it's become. Not just one species helping another, but everyone helping everyone. Maybe that's what space exploration should really be about." The Hope Fleet had grown into something its founders never imagined, a symbol of what was possible when different peoples worked together. And it all started with humanity's simple response to a cry for help: "We're coming. Hold on. You're not alone." 1 year had passed since that first desperate message reached Earth. The Hope Fleet's main station was hosting a gathering unlike any the galaxy had seen before. Representatives from over 100 different species had come to celebrate what they now called the Year of Unity. Captain Miller stood at the podium in the grand meeting hall, looking out at the amazing variety of beings before him. There were the silver-skinned star people who had first called for help, the winged sky folk, the crystal-like beings who sparkled with inner light, and even former Dark Ones who now worked as healers. "A year ago," he began, "we were just one planet, wondering if we were alone in the universe. Then we heard a call for help, and we answered. That simple choice changed everything. Dr. Brown sat in the front row with Ray and Blue. She remembered the early days when they weren't sure if they could even help the star people. Now, the medical database they had built together contained cures for thousands of diseases from hundreds of worlds. The greatest discovery we made wasn't a cure, Miller continued. It was learning that the galaxy is stronger when we work together. Every world, every species has something to teach and something to learn. A young dark one named Hope Builder stepped up to speak next. She had been one of the first to accept help when her people were sick. We thought strength meant standing alone, she said. Humans taught us that true strength comes from standing together. The station's main screen showed live images from across the galaxy. New rescue stations were opening every day, staffed by mixed crews from different worlds. The old Gateway network, once used for war and conquest, now carried medicine and aid to distant planets. But our work isn't finished, Dr. Brown said when it was her turn to speak. There are still worlds we haven't reached, species who need help, and new challenges to face. That's why we're here today, to plan for the future. The gathering wasn't just a celebration. It was also the official founding of what they called the Galactic Aid Network. Every world would contribute what they could: knowledge, resources, or simply willing hands ready to help. Blue, speaking for the Guardians, made a historic announcement. For too long, we watched from a distance. Humanity showed us a better way. From now on, the Guardians will actively help protect those who help others. The station's communications center had been expanded. Now it could receive and respond to calls from anywhere in the known galaxy. But it didn't just handle emergencies anymore. Worlds reached out to share discoveries, to teach and learn, to build friendships across the stars. Ray introduced the next phase of their mission. We're building schools where young people from every world can study together. They'll learn medicine, science, engineering, but most importantly, they'll learn from each other. The star people had transformed their cities into learning centers. The skyfolk taught atmospheric science and flight technology. The root dwellers shared their knowledge of planetary geology. The reformed dark ones taught advanced biology, using their skills to heal rather than harm. Miller watched as a group of students, humans, star people, skyfolk, and others demonstrated a new medical technique they had developed together. This is what we dreamed of finding in space, he said quietly. Not just new worlds, but new friends, new ways of thinking, new possibilities. Dr. Brown had been working on a special project with doctors from 20 different worlds. We've created something amazing, she announced. A universal medical scanner that combines technology from every member world. It can diagnose any known disease and suggest treatments based on our shared knowledge. But the most touching moment came when a message arrived from a distant galaxy. Another civilization had picked up their communications and sent a request: "We see how you help each other. Can we join you?" That's why this matters, Miller told the gathering. Everything we do sends a message into space. And the message we're sending is, no one has to face their problems alone. The celebration continued into the night. In the station's garden, beings from 100 worlds shared food, stories, and dreams. Young skyfolk taught human children to glide in low gravity. Star people shared their beautiful light sculptures. Former Dark Ones demonstrated how they had turned their bioengineering skills toward creating new types of healing plants. Blue found Miller watching it all from a quiet corner. "You know," the Guardian said, "we thought we were wise because we had seen so much. But we had forgotten something that humans never forgot: the simple power of helping others." Dr. Brown joined them, holding a data pad with news from Earth. More ships were being built, more volunteers were training, more discoveries were being made. Humanity's first step into the galaxy had started with answering a cry for help. Now they were part of something greater than they had ever imagined. "What do you think we'll find next year?" she asked. Miller smiled. "More worlds to help. More friends to make. More problems to solve together. And that's exactly what we hope to find among the stars. The three suns were setting outside the station's windows, painting the sky in beautiful colors. Ships of all designs moved through space around them, each one carrying help, hope, and the message that had changed the galaxy. You are not alone. Help is coming. And together, we can face anything. As the celebration wound down, Ray found Dr. Brown in the medical center, already working on new projects. Did you ever imagine, he asked, that your mission to help one world would lead to all this? She looked around at the busy medical center, where beings from across the galaxy worked together to save lives. No, she admitted. But that's the thing about helping others. You never know how far the ripples will spread. The Hope Fleet's original mission had grown into something far greater than a response to a medical emergency. It had become proof that different species could work together, that ancient enemies could become friends, that the greatest power in the universe was the willingness to help others. And it all started with a simple message from Earth: we hear you. We're coming. You're not alone. That message still echoed across the stars, carrying with it humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, hope.